afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tilson Live. It is Tuesday. It is 2 o'clock. We are coming at you live on YouTube, live on Facebook, as we do each and every Tuesday to talk about all things building a custom home on your land. I'm Eric Allerin, part of the fourth generation of the Tilson family. Joined as I am, ignore this guy. We're going to get to him in a second. Joined as I am each and every single time we do these by the marvelous, the wonderful Dawn Dantzler, Tilson's Vice President of Marketing and Customer Experience. Welcome, Dawn.
Hey, Eric. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm great. Your background is dirty. What's all the dirt? There's dirt all around us.
Well, it's land prep. So
okay, we're going to talk about dirt. I can't wait.
It's a stakeout for John.
Exactly. Okay, so folks, jump into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you are in. And then I'm going to introduce our guest that we have today. He's not new. He's been here before. He's a repeat offender to Tilson Live, but do jump in. It is Tuesday. It is 2 o'clock. We are live on YouTube, live on Facebook. Want to hear from each and every one of you guys, where you're building, what part of the process you're in, and where you're watching from. Always curious about that. And while we do that, I'm going to introduce our guest, and then Dawn can tell us what we're talking about, but it's going to be a spoiler alert big time. So John McIntyre is joining us again today. So John comes to us. He is our manager of our site evaluation team. So John oversees the first Tilson boots that are on the ground at your site. That is John and his team, and they go out there and they I'm not gonna steal his thunder, but there's stuff that they do, secret magical stuff they do with the dirt to help bring this dream to reality. So without further ado, Mr. McIntyre, welcome. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you came here from, and kind of why that might help connect you with some of our core Tilson people and that outdoor lifestyle, and then get us a good idea of what you and your team do. And while he's doing that, folks, y'all do jump into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, part of the process you are in. We want to hear from you. John, what are you doing here?
I've been at Tilson now going on 6 years. I've got a brother that's been here for I think 9, if I remember correctly, who spent those first 3 trying to convince me that Tilson's where I needed to be. And one day I did obviously come to Tilson. I ended up meeting my wife here. And very interconnected here at Tilson. But my background is wildlife biology originally. And that led me to want to work with small landowners and try to help them incorporate agriculture and the needs of wildlife. And so I worked on ranches primarily in South Texas, and we were always manipulating habitat and building roads and building structures, and at the same time trying to benefit animals, one variety or another. Unfortunately, some things you do, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yes.
So I was always trying to strike that balance, and I find that we keep doing that here as well. So always trying to strike a balance.
Yeah, so just to clarify, he didn't come here and run into his wife because he didn't know she worked here. He met a woman here who later became his wife and now the mother of his kids. And anyway, I came here, met my wife. There was a process in place.
I had been here a year already by the time we met.
There was a courtship period. We do have notaries in the office. We can handle these kinds of things.
We can.
Anyway, well, that's very, very cool. We're glad you're here. Obviously, you, your brother, your family, you're a great fit. Helping landowners like you've been doing your entire career, kind of meld that nature and wildlife with a place that humans can live there with them. That's kind of what our customers are after. And so great background, fits incredibly well. So folks, jump into the chat. Let's give John a hello and a hearty Tilson Live welcome. Jump into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you're in. We want to hear from you. We're live on YouTube, live on Facebook. So, Dawn, what are we talking about today since Dawn's here? Obviously,
we're going to talk about designs, color selections. We're going to talk about his favorite cabinet colors.
Cabinet colors, blinds, cabinet pulls. You'll do great, John.
Yeah, it's going to be great. He totally knew that was coming. No, we're going to talk about, what really makes building on your lot so different from buying an existing home or buying in a, pre-planned community from, another type of builder, which is really how do we develop our land? So you've bought this beautiful property and all the things, there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done to get it ready to build. And in the situation of a, production subdivision, they've done a lot of that work before you even know there's anything for sale. So there's a lot of steps in the process. And so John is here to kind of help talk everybody through those and how we can help you along the way and get that brand new property that you have ready for a new home. So.
Yeah, so there is like you just said, a lot that goes into it. It's the big differentiator between on your lot and buying a used home or buying a production home in a subdivision, because we really are, our customers and us partnered up. We're in the land development business.
Yep.
And that's, John and his team are 100% integral in making that happen. And so as we jump into this presentation, John's going to walk us through, obviously ask us your questions about site development, about culverts, about septics, about floodplain, about surveys, any of that kind of stuff you want to talk about. We're here to talk about that. Dirt pads, out of levels, whatever, anything that you think you might have a question about. There are no stupid questions, except which ones, Dawn?
The ones you don't ask.
Exactly. That's the only stupid questions that are out there, and ones that I ask. But there are minor used for clarification, or if you use an acronym. I will ask a stupid question if you use an acronym.
What's that stand for?
Exactly. Yes. So, but dude, jump into the chat. Ask us all your questions. If you have questions about construction, you can still ask those. About design, all kidding aside, you can still ask those questions. Customizations, financing, we can answer those questions as well. Can some of this stuff that we're doing on this site evaluation part and site preparation, can that be rolled into the financing? We may ask that question later.
Mm-hmm.
But Dawn, who's joining us? And let's jump into this presentation so John can get back outside where it's nice and cool.
Absolutely. So we've got Angela joining us saying howdy from Kima. Hopefully about to start building our Bear B in Blanco. Awesome.
Very cool. Nice.
Then we've got Denise. Oh, exciting updates. Good afternoon from Pearland, building the Canyon D in Chapel Hill. We are dried in. HVAC and plumbing are in with electrical, paint, and roof coming soon. Walked through with Greg yesterday to tweak some electrical changes before they start. Awesome.
Oh, very cool.
Love that you guys are moving along. And then we've got Clifton saying, watching from Nashville, Tennessee, not a landowner yet. Just recently was introduced to Republic Grand Ranch Development. Just want to learn more.
Very
nice. You have come to the right place.
Absolutely. And thanks for your service. See the Air Force deal there. So
absolutely. And then we've got Sophia saying hello, having the final decision this Saturday for our Canyon C in Bernie. Super excited. Oh, congratulations. That is exciting.
Bernie, Texas. All right. So, folks, keep jumping into the chat. Tell us where you're watching from, where you're building, what part of the process you're in. We want to hear from you. Any and all questions. I mean, site evaluation is going to be a focus today. Of course, that'll generate questions, as it always does. But any questions you have at all about the process or prospects of building a home on your land, we want to hear from you. So just ask them. That's what we're here for. We're here to get those questions answered, get you all the information you could possibly need to get this show on the road and get you and your family on the road to that independent living and building those memories out there on your rural piece of property. So, Dawn, let's get after it. John, are you ready?
All right.
I'm always ready for this.
I have no doubt, buddy.
I'll try your ear off. You let me.
Let's go.
All right.
So tell us about what we're doing, John.
Well, we're going to talk about Tilson's history, give a brief overview of building on your land. We'll talk about some pre-construction responsibilities because, like Eric said, this is what sets it apart. Important documents needed to get started. Utilities are a very important aspect of what we're going to do, at least if we ever want to get finished and connected to them. We'll talk about site access, and we'll talk about this planning and preparation process that my team that's really what they're engaged in, is trying to put it all together and make a plan.
Exactly. So, Dawn, why don't you walk us through the history and the on your land overview? We don't have to, John won't run out of gas because he's got plenty to talk about after that.
Yep. All right. So this slide is just for anybody who is new here. So you know kind of who Tilson is and why we are the experts in this. So we have been doing this for over 90 years, and we are the most experienced rural home builder in the state of Texas. We're founded in 1932. Texas family owned and operated for 4 generations. We have built over 40,000 homes on our customers' lots throughout the state, and on average, around 10 families per week are moving into their new Tilson home. So this is what we do. This is all we do. So we think we know a lot about it, and hope that you guys do as well. So just for anybody who's not sure what we mean by build on your lot, what it means is that you own the property and you're bringing it to us. So you could be calling it a lot, you could be calling it a land, could be a farm or a ranch, could be a retirement or your second home, could be your lakefront property. Really, the key to it is that you are having the home of your choice built on the property that you have found on your own, on your site, and you are creating your dream, literally from the ground up.
Nice.
So some pre-construction responsibilities, because the operative word in build on your lot is that it is yours and not ours. So there are going to be a few things that as the property owner, we're going to need you to do because it's not our land. We're not always authorized to do it on your behalf. The first is requesting a 911 address. And all of these things I'm about to talk to you about, we can help you do it. We're going to point you in the right direction. It's just we are going to need you to do a little bit of legwork on it. So the 911 address, you're registering the property with the county and saying, hey, I'm planning to build something here. And they're going to give you that address so that were anything to happen, emergency services can find us. The second is the permit applications filings. There are still a few counties where they will not let the builder file for that. They're only going to let the property owner do it. So we're going to help you fill out all that permit paperwork and application. We just may need you to turn it in or need some signatures. The utility setups, again, this is something that you're going to need to do because when we're bringing in that power and water and things like that, if it is coming in through, an outside company, you're probably going to have to grant them some easements, which is giving them the right to be able to access your property and to maintain those lines. We can't do that on your behalf because it's your property, not ours. So that is something we're going to need you to go ahead and handle. We will be right there holding your hand through every step of the process, but that is going to be things that you're going to need to set up those accounts and give those permissions. And then there's some other responsibilities, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about for pretty much the rest of this presentation. And it's just things that we don't necessarily include in the base price of the home. And because you might choose to do them instead of us. So again, these are things we can do for you. If there's room in the loan, we can go ahead and roll them in. But some of these you might decide that you want to take care of because you're that do-it-yourself kind of person. So this is going to be the things like site clearing, septic systems, all of that wonderful things that John's going to talk about, site access, all of that. So before you build, the boring paperwork side of it, I'm sure it's interesting to some people, but there's going to be some important documents that I'll talk through, and then I'm going to let John talk through all the more interesting stuff, the utilities, site access, and the site plan and preparation. So documents that we're going to look at, these are going to fall into three categories. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the deeds and the title insurance that we recommend you have. You're also going to need a plat and survey. And also, depending upon where you're building, somebody mentioned Republic Grand Ranch, that's going to come with some deed restrictions, which are guidelines about what you can and cannot do with that property that you're purchasing. So the first really important piece of paperwork is going to be the deed to the property. So we are going to need you to be able to show us documentation or help us guide us so that we can find it in the county registries that say that you actually own this property. I can't build a house on a lot for you that you don't own. So we're going to need to see this document. And really all the deed is it's that proof of ownership. So that is your land that you're telling us to build on. So on that, it's going to list the grantor, which is the seller, and then the grantee, which is the buyer. And whatever is in that space for grantee, that buyer's name needs to be the same name that is on the agreement with us. We need all those parties. If there's more than one, both of you have to be involved saying, yes, you can build this house.
Or all four of you, or whatever.
Or all four of you, or all 8 of you, or whoever owns the trust if we're in that situation. We need those things have to match. It's also going to contain the property description. So it's telling us where this plot of land is. And how they describe it. It may or may not have a sales price in it. It could be in there, but it's really not necessary to have it. But what is absolutely necessary is that seller's signature must be notarized. So we are looking for that notarized signature from the seller. And we are also looking for it to be recorded with the county. So we need the evidence of that in order for it to be valid, because until the county knows, hey, this property has changed hands, there's not really any way to prove it undisputed. So we're looking for that confirmation as well. And then the second, this is just a piece of advice. Please always, if you're considering buying property, even if it is a gift from your grandparents or your parents, please get a title insurance policy in place before you complete that transaction. And what this is going to do is really go back all the way to the beginning and follow that chain of legal ownership and make sure that this property is free and clear to be handed to you, that there are no disputed liens or judgments or any other people who can come and make a claim. So that is, and it's going to protect you, because basically that title company is doing that research and saying, yes, we can guarantee that there's no one else that has a claim to this property. And so request that as soon as you're paying earnest money or signing that agreement. Let's go ahead and get that in place. And that just protects everybody moving forward. And then the last piece of paperwork in this section is your boundary survey. So this is the piece of paper that shows us all of the imaginary lines that determine the edge of your property. So it's going to have that drawing of the property, and that's going to be those thick, bold lines. That's the actual boundaries of the property you own. And we are also looking for, and you want to confirm when you buy the property, that the corner pins are still flagged and you can locate those. So they're locatable and flagged, so you can actually physically see where those corners are. The other thing that's going to show on these, you can see there's a bunch of dotted lines. These are things like building lines, easements, and setbacks. So this is really just giving us guidance of all of the places that we are allowed to build a permanent structure. So it's showing us, what is the power company entitled to when they're accessing the property? In your deed restrictions, does it say, hey, your house needs to be so far away from the street, so far away from, your neighbors, that kind of stuff. So it's just showing us this is the safe area to build a permanent structure. And so we're using that for planning purposes. You still own all of it. You still have to take care of all of it, but you can't build a pool in all of it is basically, what it comes down to. It's also going to show us all the dimensions for the property. It should show flood zone information and tell us where you're located. And the most important thing is that it is going to have that seal of a registered professional land surveyor and his signature saying this is a legitimate document and I didn't just draw it up myself. This is actual real life information based on all the research about the property.
Very cool. Well, shall we pause for a little bit and welcome folks and move on to? Oh wait, deed restrictions. Wait, no pausing yet.
Wait. One last really big, boring piece of paperwork. All right, deed restrictions and covenants. So this is going to vary depending on where your land is located. So I know specifically Republic Grand Ranch, but there are a lot of other areas as well that you're going to have a big pile of deed restrictions and covenants about how you can use the land. And keep in mind, when you purchase that property, you are agreeing to this document. It is a binding contract that already exists on this land. So if you are considering purchasing property, get a copy of the deed restrictions, read them, make sure it's stuff that you can live with, because you don't get to protest it afterwards. You agreed to it by buying it. So this is going to, for us, the pertinent stuff is it's usually going to give us some home design requirements. So it's going to include things like minimum square footage. If you're in an area that's got waterfront property, sometimes it has a maximum height so that you're not restricting anybody else's view of the lake. It's going to give us, a list of required materials. So what are we allowed to use for siding? Is there a certain requirement for masonry? Is there a requirement for what type of materials can be used in roofing? We'll often also see garage requirements. So it'll tell us, do you have to have an attached garage? Are you allowed to have a detached garage? What direction do the bays need to face? Where are those garage doors on there? Is there a maximum size? Things like that. And then it'll also have in there, if there is a plan approval committee, it'll give us the guidelines for how we go ahead and get those approved. And then we also sometimes see requirements for construction, including, the hours we're allowed to work, things like that. But sometimes there are also deposits that we as a builder have to put down so that they know that if there's any damage to the roads, which we wouldn't do, but some people would, that we have to, they have money to kind of get all of that fixed. So these are the types of things that we're looking for. What you're also going to want to look for is there should be an HOA guidelines too, if there is one that's saying all the other things. When do your garbage cans have to be out? When do they have to be put away? Those types of things.
Yeah. And I know that I've done my fair share of dragging restrictions in the mud. Okay. I get it. But they aren't all bad. Okay. They do a job, and their purpose is to protect property values.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Not every house has to look the same, but we kind of need some level of homogeneity to the subdivision. We don't want a trailer next to a 3,000 square foot custom home, next to a barbershop, next to there are points and purposes to deed restrictions that aren't all evil. They're sometimes run by morons, but they're not all evil. And I can't help it. Restrictions it's not the restrictions' fault. They were documented properly.
Exactly. That's the thing. Make sure that you have read them and that you're willing to agree with them, because you are agreeing to these rules when you buy the property.
Righto. Okay.
All
Now
right.
that disclaimer's been said.
Let's see. We've got Neil saying, hard to believe it's been a year now in the San Jacinto XL. Thanks to Tilson for an amazing home. Oh, awesome. Glad
And
to
Neil,
see that.
I reserve the right that before you ever change your avatar away from the Corvette, you have to get approval from the Tilson Live team. Just because I
Was
can't.
that in the deed restrictions?
I have just certified it SO. If I don't see the Corvette, I may have a bad day. That's what I'm saying.
All right. We have Azaldi Karen saying, howdy from Richmond, building the Arlington B, moving along well. Pouring of concrete will happen Thursday. Very thankful to Chris's team. Oh, that's
Awesome. Yeah. No, thanks for bearing with us. I know we had to do some negotiating with the powers that be in Fort Bend County, for you to build a beautiful home in their place and be able to pay property taxes to them in perpetuity. But that's, thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah, thank you. We got Deborah saying, building in Blanco County. Our walkthrough is scheduled for tomorrow. We are almost there. So many great models. We chose the Magnolia model because we wanted to showcase the view off our little hilltop. It is perfect for that. As soon as we come in the front door, we have a view of the valley from 3 rooms. It's also going to be a great house for entertaining. We're going to love it. Oh, sounds like you already do.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Congratulations.
That rocks.
It's awesome. Then we've got Carrie watching from work. We won't tell. We're watching from work too.
Same, yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, same. Enjoying our Paladuro in San Jacinto County, closed in June and adjusting to all the dust in the country, but loving it.
It will rain again. I promise you. It will rain.
Yes. And then we've got Paul saying, interested in hearing how Tilson can help us decide which direction to face our home. Do you have other feedback from families that have already built, such as what they might have done differently?
Well, that is a very John question.
That is a good John question.
Actually, what I would say is that every customer's property is different. And what we would like to talk about with our customers is the goal. So we just had a comment earlier, for example, that was talking about the view. So we may be looking at, where's the focal point of this home? Is it the front porch? Is it the back porch? Do we have a specific view that we're trying to achieve? And then one thing that I like to take in consideration, because native Texan here, where's that shade coming from? Where's the sun rising and setting, and how is that going to cast shade onto that focal point? And it might be that we can position the home to kind of frame it up so that in the heat of the day, maybe we're getting some shade off that nice big oak tree that we're building next to.
Yeah.
If it's over the back porch, that might be ideal.
For sure. And then also, Paul, going back to maybe some of it, I don't know where you're building and what the restrictions might be, but those can sometimes have an impact on the direction that the house can face as well, like which street it has to face or which street the garage doors can face. Obviously, like to John's point, your view, because you're the one spending the money, that's primary. Like that's the first goal. And then after that, how do we make that gel with, if there are restrictions, what those might be, how far, what do the neighbors build? Do you want me looking at that? And yeah, like what John says, where's the view? Where do you spend your time? I have to see water. Me personally, I got to have water. So in the mornings, I sit on the front porch. My front porch faces west. So yeah, by 3:00 in the afternoon, we ain't hanging out on the front porch at the Allard house. It's a little warm, and that's okay because I literally just use that for early in the morning before the sun's up anyway. And then by the afternoon, we can hang out on the back porch. In the evenings, faces east. It's all shaded. So it does play into your restrictions to some degree, if that's possible. So.
Okay, makes sense.
Awesome questions. I keep asking your question. Drop in the chat. It is now the John McIntyre show.
Yes, I'm going to be quiet now.
Through the utilities, all the stuff that nobody tells you about, but has to happen every time. So let's have it, John. What do you got?
Well, we're going to talk about power because we have to have power tools to build our homes.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about water because now more than ever we have to have the water in construction, but you've absolutely got to have it when you want to move in. Sewer and septic, you really have to have a plan for that in almost every jurisdiction before you can even get a development permit. And then natural gas and propane, these are kind of optional, but they come in waves, it seems like, especially after we have big winters. They become a lot more popular. So everybody's got a preference. We're going to talk about that too. So power is first. Again, we've got to have this to build the home physically. So most of our customers are going to be in a co-op, a cooperative. We're going to meet with that representative, the power company and the owner. And we're going to figure out what they need to do to get that infrastructure to us, and then what the best way is for us to tie into that infrastructure. And so what we're looking at here is 4 different examples of how that can be done. We need both temporary power. Like I said, we plug in an extension cord. We've got to run some power tools. We need saws and drills and all kinds of other equipment. And then we're also going to need that permanent power that's going to be metered to you, just like everybody at some point somewhere has had an electric bill. Your permanent power may serve as your temporary. You may do 2 different setups, and that's what we see over here on the far left. But at the end of the day, we've got a half a dozen. Nope, I take it back. We've got more than a dozen ways that we can actually get this done. And some of it is going to be customers' preference as well, whether we go overhead or underground. A lot of times they're going to have the option of choosing depending on that power company and the infrastructure that's already in place. So water, again, absolutely necessary if we want to live in the 21st century. So we've got public water and well water in most cases. Those are kind of the 2 main options. Your private source, where you're pulling it directly out of the ground, or it's being pulled out of the ground somewhere else and sold to you. Most of our customers, even in rural areas, they end up having public water available to them because they're not so far out into the country. But if it's available, we've got to tap into that water main. The meter's got to be set. There's a cost to do that. They're going to charge you for the privilege of even having a meter when you don't use the water. And other folks are, if they don't have the option, or frequently even if they do, they're going to choose instead to drill their own water well. And then they've got an electric bill, but they can pull that water out of the ground. They've got a little bit more control over it, how it's treated, especially is becoming more of a focal point these days. And these wells, it could be your own private well, or it could be shared with a neighbor or a family member that lives next to you. And we see quite a few of both of those.
Yep.
Septic and sewer. Really, septic is nothing more than a small individual private sewer treatment plant. In fact, the state, they call them OSSF, on-site sewage facility. And it's the exact same thing that your bigger cities are going to have. You'll see kind of the raceways where they're treating the water and reusing it. You're going to have the same thing going on your property if you live outside of the bounds of having public sewer services available to you. If we have sewer, we'll need to tap into that main. Once again, we'll need to inject into their infrastructure. Most of our customers, though, are not going to. They're a little bit more limited than public water as far as a geographical area. So most of our customers instead are going to have their own private sewer system on site. And again, that's what we refer to as septic. And of those, there's 4 or 5 different varieties.
What do you see most frequently, John? As far as, so you got conventional and aerobic. What do you see most frequently in the various
We
areas? Mostly
sell spray aerobic. There's a few diehards out there that still want the conventional septic system. There's an idea that they've got less long-term maintenance, but frankly, I grew up on a conventional septic, and I don't know if that's the case.
They all have maintenance. Yeah, they all have.
I can definitely remember being knee-deep in it, digging it up.
It's yes.
You don't forget that.
A childhood experience that I will never forget. Is climbing down in waders into a conventional septic system and saying, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go to college. Might have been the point of the exercise for my granddad. I don't know, but it worked if that was the case.
Well, my dad had the same philosophy and taught it the same way to me.
Yeah. So anyway, I woke up that morning wondering who we were going to call to fix it. And he walked downstairs in waders. And I'm like, oh, we're not calling anyone.
For us, it always happened like 3 days before Christmas when all the family got together.
Oh, usually it was during, like when everyone
it was cold and it was wet.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to both. If you got questions about that, ask them. We'll be glad to talk about it. We won't spend a whole lot of time on septic systems unless y'all just want to. Which, by the way, we've done it before. Dawn can vouch. Probably not her favorite episodes, but they got a lot of clicks.
Look, I like it when everybody gets the information they're looking for. So ask the questions.
Seriously.
So kind of back to something I commented on earlier is you are not in most locations going to be able to obtain a development permit without a septic permit first. And even the few counties out there that still don't require development permits, they do require that you pull a septic permit and have that installed by a
Shout out Grimes County.
Most of the designs, I think actually all of the designs are completed by a registered sanitarian. They usually work very closely with the installer who will physically perform the work later. They will sketch out the plans. They're going to show it on the survey, kind of what we're going to see a little bit later. They'll show where the house is at, as well as that septic and all the components of it. They're going to submit that as an application, usually a relatively thick packet, to the county. It takes some of them much more than 3 to 4 weeks. Unfortunately, Travis County, it can take forever, but that's going to go through the county. They're going to approve it because it's got to meet TCEQ standards, because that's, again, governed by the state. Sometimes they come back with revisions that the designer has to address. Other times they don't. But as soon as we've got approval, we know that this is something we can go into the field and have executed, and we're not going to have any issues come up down the line.
By the way, I just now discovered that this example has always been Grimes County. I did not realize that till today. Anyway, that's pretty funny. And yeah, I mean, you'd think, John, you mentioned Travis, that you'd think that the bigger the county and more populated it is, the faster they are, because of the more employees they have working at the county. But we strangely find that doesn't turn out to be the case, does it? It's so weird.
Most of our local governments don't work that way, actually.
So just
I think the few cities that are exemplify that.
Yeah, the good news is we've been there and done that. We can walk you through it. But yeah, when it comes to dealing with municipalities and government agencies, throw all logic out of the room, because none of it's going to apply. But the good news is we've been there and done that. We can walk you through it and hold your hand, and we can be there as a sounding board when you are very upset. Please don't take your upsetness up with the county.
No.
That will typically only
Take
push
donuts to the county.
Yeah, take donuts and kolaches to the county. Do not take complaints and gripes. They will only put your paperwork further down to the bottom. Bring your gripes and complaints to us. We got thick skin and big shoulders. We can handle it. And yeah, so just pro tip.
So again, gas is one of those things that it seems like it comes in waves, especially after big freezes. More frequently and more consistently, though, is in that second photo, you see a picture of a Generac, and a gas-powered generator is something that we see a lot more customers going towards these days. Natural gas is it's not public, it's private, but it's distributed to the public. Very similar to what we talked about earlier with the water meters and with sewer. It's available generally in your neighborhood. You tap into it, it's metered to you, it's sold to you at a usage rate, and you have access to it. Propane is a self-contained tank. You'll have to hire somebody to bring it to you. They fill it up. You use it till it runs out, and they're almost interchangeable. You generally kind of just change the jets out on the appliance, and most appliances will run both ways. There's not much of a functional difference between liquid propane and gas. There is, but it's not much of one. One thing that I'll go ahead and just address here is a lot of folks ask about appropriately sizing the propane tank. And only thing I would say to that is we need to first look at the appliances that we're going to run on propane. I get that question a lot, and especially my guys in the field. We don't necessarily have all of the selections that we've made with our sales team behind the scenes. We're kind of looking at the house, we're looking at the survey and the land, and it matters whether it's just the range, the furnace, the water heater. Those things start to add up, and that usage is going to change very quickly. So at all times, you're going to have the option of an above ground or below ground tank, but we do want to talk about sizing, make sure that you're setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, and they, you can rent them, you can buy them, you can bury them, you can keep them above ground, you can buy new ones, you can buy used ones. Like there's a lot of options out there when it comes to propane tanks.
You can't rent one that you bury though. Those you got to purchase, but the above ground can be rented or buried. The only really one of the few limitations we run into is we get into some limitation as far as where we can put it based on the size. You wouldn't even want a 2,000 gallon a 2,000-gallon tank of a highly volatile fuel setting 3 feet from your bedroom window. And coincidentally, you're not allowed to do that. So we want to make sure that we keep that in mind as well, but it's usually a non-starter. It's kind of an afterthought. So
very cool.
Site access. Again, we're trying to set the land up, be ready for construction so that we can hand it off to our builder and they're ready to just knock them all down. One of the first things we've got to do is get them into the property. And so we've got to have construction access that we're looking at a 7-8 month process coming up from the day they begin to the day they finish. And it's going to rain at some point during that time. And it seems like it may not, but eventually it will. And one thing about us and rain is it's always feast or famine. So we've got to have a good, solid road that's going to work for 80,000-pound vehicles. I think on occasion we actually get trucks in there that have oversized load permits.
Never happened.
But we've got to have a good, solid road made out of something that's going to hold up and not get mucky and nasty on us. Mm-hmm. So it does not have to be the final driveway location. And occasionally there are really good reasons to not put it there. But in most cases, it's a substantial enough improvement that it really is worth taking the time to think about where that final drive location is going to be. Mm-hmm. And if you can put them in the same location, you're going to set yourself up for having a good solid base, a foundation to pave that final drive later, if that's the direction we're going. And then frequently, probably 60-70% of the time, these driveways, these construction accesses that we're building, they need culverts, whether that's the bar ditch or some sort of drainage that's deep into and on the private property. We can't just build up a low area and create a dam. Eventually that water will back up in a pond. It'll be a mosquito nest and you don't want that. But also if it builds enough back pressure, it's going to end up knocking that driveway out. And then we'll have to pause everything and get that fixed. And that's not something that we want to put our customers through. So when we determine that a culvert is necessary, we need to start looking at how much water is flowing through here and how do we allow that water to continue to flow unimpeded. Sometimes the county, the subdivision, the city is going to help guide us there. That's particularly going to apply to the bar ditches, and that's going to be most of the customers that need culverts. And then again, a lot of those municipalities and the subdivisions that we're building in, they may require permits for the culverts as well. Site planning and preparation.
You want to pause, Don, do some of these questions?
Yeah, let's pause and answer some questions. We can jump back in.
John, what is whistle? I can't go long anymore with that.
All right. So we've got Tim asking, do you have any Mediterranean-style home models, single story?
Tim, I'd say probably the closest thing we have as far as I would consider Mediterranean, and that's, of course, a loose definition, would be our Paladuro model in San Marcos. In fact, the elevation we have built there is that, and we have done different types of Spanish tile roofs on those. We've done, there's obviously the old clay, there's caladium, or kind of a lightweight concrete that can be made. There's also even metal that looks like Spanish. So that's what you would consider Mediterranean. You know, in my head, when I hear Mediterranean, I think like stucco and Spanish tile roof. That's what they want to say, Mediterranean. But the Mediterranean's a big sea, and there's a lot of different weird, like there's mud huts and tents all the way up to like concrete block buildings that are all considered Mediterranean. So anyway, but that's kind of the easiest one to go look at right away. I think we don't have a Spanish tile roof on it. It's a regular composition roof, but we've done metal on there. We have done Spanish tile roofs. We have access to that, so that's a pretty simple thing to do. I've seen that on Magnolia too. That
style of elevation is available on a lot of our different home plans.
Oh yeah. Basically, low pitch. Anything low pitch is kind of Mediterranean or neo hill country or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Tim is also asking, are you a VA certified builder looking to build with my VA home loan?
Yeah, we do VA houses all the time. I don't know that there's an actual VA certification process for builders in Texas, but we build beyond all of the VA specifications. That's a better way a more legal way to say it is we exceed what the VA requires for them to be able to make a loan on. But yeah, we do VA loans all over the state. I mean, majority of them are in the hill country, but that's just because where the concentration of bases are in Texas. So San Antonio especially, and then Killeen where Fort Hood is, and then you got Lackland, you got Randolph Brooks, you got a lot of stuff out there. But yeah, we do VA deals all over the state. No problem.
And then Anthony is sharing, just finished our design meeting and initial stakeout last week for our Arlington C in New Waverly. Now having a few last minute trees removed for the foundation. Big thanks to Amy Williams for all the help along the way.
Oh,
awesome.
That's really cool. Thanks, Anthony, for sharing.
Thanks.
It's exciting.
And then we have George asking, he's building a Barton Springs A in Rosenberg. Construction meeting is very soon. Tilson is doing the well. Will it be exposed to the elements? Should it be enclosed? And should propane be above or below ground?
John, go, and I have an opinion, but I want to hear you out first, brother.
I'm going to start with propane because that's the low-hanging fruit. That's personal preference. It really is. The restrictions as far as how close it can be to either a property line or a structure, it changes just a little bit, but for the most part, it's personal preference. On the water well, there are certainly elements of that pumping equipment that, in my opinion, should be covered. They're susceptible to freezing. There are other ways to prevent them from freezing. I can tell you that they can be insulated and they don't necessarily have to be covered, but my 2 cents, put a structure around it, run electricity to that structure, and hang an incandescent light bulb in there. That's going to handle most of Texas's bad weather.
Agreed. I definitely, but I mean, I'm gonna go back to the slide, Don, that shows the water well. Bring it up because a lot of people they see this, they think this is the water well, this big blue thing. It's actually not. That's the pressure tank. The well is right here. This 4-inch encased concrete thing going down into the ground. This is the actual well. The pump itself is submerged, so the pump is down in the ground. Wherever they hit water, usually. Kind of in the middle of that aquifer is where they try to put that, maybe the lower third, where they put the actual submersible pump. It's a cylindrical pump. It's about 2.5, 3 feet long and 3.5 inches in diameter. And it's dropped down there with electrical wire that goes all the way down and pipe to pump the water up. And what John's talking about that is susceptible to freezing is this little, 18 inch to 2.5 feet of water line that goes from there into here. We've seen folks put these pressure tanks in, so you could build something that encloses this entire thing, very small enclosure. Something to think about is be sure that you have some type of removable top or a way, or just be prepared to sacrifice the roof of it. If they do have to ever pull this, all this pipe out, they have to bring a workover rig. And you could Google that and look at images, but a rig out where they stand it up and they literally pull out pipe 20 feet at a time, 40 feet at a time, whatever rig they may have. They have to service that pump or replace that pump at some point. But I mean, it doesn't have to be, but I agree with John that building some type of an enclosure around it, at least this part, like the tank can be exposed, but again, it's full to about here, maybe right here with water.
I don't think your pointer is showing.
It's not? Okay, sorry. Here we go.
There we go.
This is the well. Sorry, starting over briefly. This is the well. This is not the well. This is a pressure tank.
Okay.
So this is the well. This part of the pipe here is what John's referring to that he would be concerned about freezing. He's 100% correct. Those 6 days a year that we get that do dip down below. So, do you have to enclose the entire thing? Not necessarily. I see a lot of folks, maybe this part here is in a garage or an outbuilding or something like that. And then just this part, the well itself is out. They don't have to be right next to each other. Being close is ideal because all the pressure tank does is keep pressure on. So it's like a miniature version of a water tower in a small town. That's what this is. So the top third or fourth of this is just an air bubble that keeps pressure on how you get your 60, 70 pounds of pressure at your house. So, but yeah, not definitely recommended to cover this, or at least insulate it to some degree, and then protect it from livestock.
I've seen a lot recently too. They've got these small fiberglass coverings they won't fit a pressure tank in most cases, but It's small. It's not more than knee high, 3 feet by 4 feet maybe, and it's intended just for that. If you can find another place for that pressure tank, because it can be kind of an eyesore anyways, and so I think that's why a lot of folks are putting them in structures. But when you've got small, low to the ground, knee high or less equipment, anything to cover that up and insulate it from the air.
I've even seen ones that are like
lot.
designed to shape like rocks. They look like rocks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because gigantic boulders are natural.
And I've seen dog houses and doll houses and things that they were just simply built to
That's
be
what mine
aesthetic.
are. Mine are little, and I got handles on them, so I can pick them up or pick up with a set of forks on a tractor and move it out of the way and service it and go. So anyway, yeah, agreed.
Very nice. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. And then we've got Kathy, Sharon building in Angelina B in Angelina County. Just a few weeks left. We can't thank Tilson enough for making the process so easy and for being so transparent throughout the process. I can't speak for Jason because he is picking me up Chicken Express right now, but I feel like I am truly a part of the Tilson family. That's awesome. Thanks, Kathy.
A 4 tender pack with a roll and honey.
We talk about Chicken Express a lot now, John. You've missed that development.
And either fried okra or mashed potatoes, no gravy. That's mine.
But nobody's mentioning the sweet tea.
Dude, it's a gift. A gift. She said Chicken Express. Staple.
All right. And then Clifton is asking, what's the typical cost for septic systems for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath in Montgomery County? And remember, he is specifically in Republic Grand Ranch.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're looking at about $11,000. Get you pretty close. So that's going to include it's not just the system. So that's the design. So you have to do a percolation test, the actual design of the septic system, the permit for Montgomery County, 2-year maintenance agreement is included with it. So it's all encompassing of everything. It's not just the tanks and the sprinklers themselves, although it is that. So that's a aerobic spray system, 2-year maintenance agreement, up to 4 bedrooms, up to 3,500 square feet of living area, 500-gallon primary tank, 500-gallon treatment tank, 750-gallon pump tank, up to 3 sprinkler heads, 300 feet from the pump tank. So yeah, I think I've got everything. All disclaimers are.
This should be all the
chlorinator, spray systems. It'll be a liquid or tablet chlorinator, probably liquid chlorinator in that case. So hopefully that gets it done.
All right. Awesome. And then Isolde Karen is saying again, howdy, building the Arlington B in Fort Bend County. Progress is very impressive. Pouring concrete this Thursday. So excited and very thankful to Chris's team. So she wanted to make sure we shared that. So we did.
Got it. Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. And then here's Jason. It was a 3-piece and Chicken Express ain't no joke. If you know regarding the fried okra. So
my man's right. He's absolutely right.
All right. Awesome.
All right. So folks, keep dropping your questions, comments into the chat. We'll answer all of them. John's going to take it away here at the site planning and preparation, and we're going to smash the gas.
All right.
No pun intended.
So
nobody got that.
So this planning and preparation is really what we for a long time called the stakeout process. And I think we even talked about it in the comments earlier. But as soon as we sign a contract with somebody, the very first thing that's done is they are assigned to somebody on my team, and we're deployed to go meet with that customer, meet on their property, and develop a plan. And we walk away from that having scratched out a dozen pages of notes and drawings, and we got an example of one of those drawings here because we're trying to relay sometimes some complex information. But really the first hour and a half of the meeting is simply visiting with the owner and trying to figure out what their goal, their objective is. So earlier I talked, for example, about what direction we might face the home, and Eric's right. If we're in town, we may not have a lot of options. But if we're out on a rural piece of property, we may have a million options available to us. So we want to first figure out what that objective is, and then figure out how we can meet that owner's objective. And we'll meet with them, figure out that location, the direction as well. We will sketch up the site plan. That's how we relay that kind of mathematically to everybody else. We're going to show them the power is going to be here. It's going to come into the house in this location. The water well is going to be here, and it's going to come into the house in this location. And then because we got a well over here, we need to put the septic way over there. And we're going to put a parking pad. The driveway comes in like this. These are the trees that may or may not need to be removed. we'll get all of that on paper because this packet's actually going to be used by a dozen different people downstream. And then on the preparation side of it, we're going to have a conversation with our owners because Don had kind of hit on very early on, 90% of these things we can do, but sometimes our customers want to be more involved in the process. They want to take on that responsibility. And especially if they've got the equipment or they've got the know-how or they've got family friends that are experts in that field, like septic, for example, that may be something that they want to outsource themselves, and we just let them handle that. So we're also going to part ways with a understanding of who's going to do what. And whether that involves clearing or groundworks, installing culverts and construction drives, we're going to lay out everything that's necessary before we're finished ultimately, but some of it will have to take place up front. And then we're going to start talking about who's responsible for it.
Cool. Well, see, we got to update a photo. I didn't see somebody use a tractor and a box blade in a minute. I think skid steers have taken over.
I'm going for nostalgia, guys.
I love it. Sure. No, hey, you're talking to a guy with a tractor and a box blade and no skid steer, so I get it. I'm down. But
and so this report that I mentioned, we'll put this together. We kind of see a snippet over here in the corner of those pre-construction responsibilities. That's how we leave a list essentially to the owners of these are the things that you've decided that you were going to take care of. There's a couple in there like the utilities we talked about. I can't go necessarily set up an electric bill and have them send it to you. So there's a few things that I'm going to ask you for just off the cuff, and then the rest of it's going to be site specific depending on what we determine together. But we will have decided the best placement for the home based on your needs, your wants. We're going to take into account all of those clearances, the dash lines that we saw on the survey, whether that's a power company who's got this part cordoned off, or the subdivision says you can't be within 100 feet of the front of the road. We're going to make sure that we're in accordance with all of that. Any of those additional needs, if we need to level the site before we begin, we're going to have already drawn that up, sketched that out. This is what this is going to look like. Clearing that might be needed, building that access that we've talked about. We're going to have measurements for water, electric, sewer, anything, utilities that may need to be priced. And then we will, again, leave that list with you so that there's no miscommunication as to what was determined at the end of the day. Moreover, we're going to stay in communication with you after the fact. We're going to be working with you the whole way through accomplishing those tasks. So we will hand draw something similar to this. It's not going to be near as pretty, unfortunately, but there are a lot of subdivisions, cities, and even counties that require something that's drafted. And so we're going to create this initially up front with our own measurements. And then what we're looking at here is a site plan that our drafting folks have taken and they've put it on paper and they've cleaned it up. And that's a heck of a lot better than anything I'll ever do by hand. But it's going to show everything, all of the improvements that are going to be on the property. It's going to show the location of the home. It's got to have the dimensions to the property line, and as it shows that we're in accordance with these building setback lines. It's going to show the utilities hookups, and so we can see a big oval here in the middle that's showing a septic drain field, and just above that, it looks like, I can't read it, but probably water and electric coming in from that corner of the property. It'll show driveways, culverts. Here we've even got some flat work. We've got that sidewalk coming off the driveway up to the front door. You can see the culvert there. And then again, those building lines and easements showing that we've met all of the restrictions that have been laid forth for us. So this is going to ultimately go to whoever the governing body is, whether it's city, county, subdivision. And this is partially how we're asking for approval to build and obtain a permit.
Yeah, most cases, they just want to know you have some kind of a plan, right? Like you're not going to just go out there willy-nilly and start turning dirt. And
this looks good.
Right.
We're not going to just start with concrete and see what happens.
There.
Yeah.
And it's site clearing. A lot of times we're going to wait until we absolutely have to pull all of these things out, because we do have folks who sometimes change their mind. What you wouldn't want to do is go in and clear all the trees off your property and decide, you know what, I think I'm going to build on that other lot that I have over there. I liked it a little bit more. The view's better. So we're going to figure out which ones needed to come out. We'll usually go ahead and obtain some pricing. We may need to or want to go ahead and start removing them early, and we may not. In a lot of cases, though, we're going to wait until a little bit later in the game, generally 3-4 weeks before we plan to start construction, so that if any changes have been made, it's not too late on that clearing side. We do try to keep as many trees as possible. Unfortunately, I will tell you, most people will sit down and design a home with our sales staff, and they'll come back and they'll have something that's 100 feet by 90 feet. And then they'll walk us into a clearing that's 40 by 50. And they're going to say, I don't have to take any trees out, right? No, we got to take out a few. But if there's, for example, an L-shaped house, I think actually that site plan we were just looking at showed that garage sticking out. That might be an example of something where we could work around a tree that would be in that front left corner of the home. I mean, here we're going to have a septic there, so that may not.
Don't worry, this is a new Braunfels.
We're going to look for those opportunities.
Actually, that's exactly where that tree was that we did work around for this house, because it was a live oak.
So yeah, we're going to try to work around those in all instances. We don't like taking out trees unnecessarily. They have a ton of value, especially depending on the species. So the more we can keep, the better that property is going to look at the end of the day. The more you're going to enjoy it, the more shade you're going to have. I already told you how much I like shade. So yeah, we're definitely going to try to work around it. But we also want to make sure that we're protecting your foundation and setting you up for success.
Well said.
So we, like I said at the very beginning, we've got to balance these sometimes two opposing forces. But best thing we can do, in my opinion, is just educate our owners and let them help us make the decisions, because I can make it work one way or the other, but I need to know what you're looking for.
Well said.
Yeah.
And then groundwork. This is, we do this, I don't know, I'd say 60% of our customers' homes, we're going to do something like this, where we will come in and we will level in some way the site artificially before we start pouring concrete. It's not practical. We've talked a little bit about the hill country today, and there are places where you just couldn't pull it off. You either couldn't hammer out the rock because it's too hard, or you couldn't find enough dirt in that part of the world to make a level spot if you wanted to. But there are plenty of places. We talked about RGR. We talked about our Republic Ranch. And we talked about North Texas a little bit. There we've got dirt, and when dirt can be moved, it's generally a lot less expensive and sometimes a lot more aesthetic option to do that. So we'll have that plan all sketched out, and we'll try to help you visualize it as much as possible before we take any action steps.
Let's talk just a brief minute about drainage, and then we'll.
Drainage is paramount. It doesn't matter if we're doing dirt work or not. The number one killer of concrete is water. And so we've got to get it away from the house. We've got to get it moved. It's going to run off the roof. It's going to land right next to the foundation. We've got to get it away from us. It really doesn't matter if we're just pouring concrete on the side of the hill in West Austin, or if we're doing some dirt work down in New Waverly. We've got to make sure that that water's running away from us. So this plan that we're going to have sketched out on paper, it's going to encompass a thought, at least. It may not be explicitly mentioned that that's what it is, but there's going to be something in there that's allowing that water to move away from us. A lot of times the easiest way to do that is to simply gain elevation. You can create some slope between you and what's way out there, and that gravity will help you do it. It'll carry it away. But there are other times when that gets trickier, and we have to start thinking of things like French drains. But we have a little bit of a prejudice against French drains. They clog.
We do that. We can do retaining walls.
It's much better if you can make it just flow naturally.
We got options, and we've done it all.
All right.
So thanks for touching on that.
And then the fun part. This is where we step back, and we've handed a project to our building superintendent, and they get to come in and they get to be the hero for the rest of it, because this might be more exciting. So I like what I do, but
On your preference.
I think for our owners, that might be more fun.
Everybody has fun in different ways, but
That's exactly right.
Everything this is the part where you just start to get closer.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that is a big part of it. I suspect that when you drive out and see this, it feels a little more real than it did yesterday.
For sure. All right.
Awesome. Well, we got a couple of questions, so let's get after it. And folks, drop your questions in the chat. We'll do kind of a last call because we're right at that hour. Drop your questions in the chat. You got anything to have to do at all about site preparation, about building on your land, about construction, financing, whatever you want to say. But
all right. Jason is sharing that this was the first time Kathy and he were in the same room for a live. So
makes sense.
I'm
why
glad
you're
that
so,
Chicken
tame.
Express brought you together and you were able to sit in the same room.
I know that your comments haven't been quite nearly as one-sided today, Jason.
He hasn't been asking us to give our opinions in their latest fight. So Stacy's asking if we are wanting to put in a pool at a later time, what planning and prep would be necessary during the home build?
Go, John.
We absolutely need to talk about the location of that pool, because even the smallest things, like where we ran the water line, where we ran that power line getting to the home, placement of the septic tank, the drain field, the construction drive, all of those things can affect your ability to put that pool in later. But more importantly, in some cases, is we've got to work that into the drainage plan that we just got through talking about. If we're going to be doing dirt work, you, for example, may not want to have your house 15 feet above your swimming pool. And I can think of one customer a little over a year ago that we had to have a conversation with about that. And we had to get it on paper and show them that if we don't do something different, we're going to be 15 feet above that swimming pool, and it's only 30 feet out the back door. So we really need to approach this in a different way. So if we know that that's in the play, even if it's just an option, we really need to be having this conversation, making sure that we're planning around it and leaving the door open for it.
Yeah, what happens in 2D does not necessarily reflect what happens in 3D, we find. So that's something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. And we've got Tiffany saying building in Angelina C in Bosque County. We did our own prep, water line, septic clearing, most of the pad prep, electric setup, and construction drive. Our concrete pour is this Thursday morning. I'm impressed with how fast everything is happening. I just want to say the team here in Waco has been absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's
awesome.
Cool.
Thank you for sharing. And then we got Denise saying, I have a copy of my site plan that was submitted to the HOA for approval. Our culvert is not in the same place as shown. Whoever drew up the site plan, did they not get the correct information from the site team? I thought the culvert would be placed according to the plan submitted.
I don't know. I'm not, without looking at it, Denise, I don't know for sure. So we'll want to look into that. Obviously what was approved was what was approved. We want to check that out. But there are some cases where the county has said this is where it's going to go. In other words, we can say where we want it put, and then the county or state, depending on, I think yours is in a subdivision though, so I think it's a county road for there in Washington County. They're going to override in some cases. The state, especially, TxDOT is notorious for that. But yeah, we don't mind taking a look at that and send us a private message, and we'll check back into that. But I don't think it's anything that's going to be earth shattering. So
okay. All right. And then Angela's asking, how long does it typically take for construction to start after an HOA gives you approval? I say typical, haha, nothing about our HOA has been typical thus far.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, usually that's one of the last things we're waiting on. So as long as we have the permit and the engineering foundation design and the financing, the commitment letter in place, then, I mean, it can happen within weeks of that, like a couple of weeks. That might be one of the, hopefully that's the last thing we're waiting for. Your sales consultant could definitely give more insight into that as to what exactly we're waiting for. But yeah, once the HOA gives us approval, especially if it's a persnickety HOA, it probably is the last thing we're waiting on. It cracks me up the HOAs that ask for foundation design, for example. Like, I know Denise.
What are you going to do with that?
No clue what you're looking at. No clue what you're looking at. But whatever, we'll supply it to you.
It just wants us to prove we have one.
Okay, yeah, okay. Because why? The HOA is in some way responsible for the foundation. Like, we're the ones on the hook. So if you want to join us in the warranty, more power to you. Love to have you. Should be great. But anyway, did I mention I drag? Never mind. Doesn't matter.
Did we mention Eric does not have an HOA?
I do too. Her name's Rachel. She's very.
Eric is his own HOA.
She's very graceful.
But Rachel is president.
and secretary and vice president and treasurer. For sure, treasurer.
Eric is sometimes invited to meetings.
Correct.
George is saying CP needs to run poles down the street to our site, so we'll need generator initially. What is your experience with CP? They estimated about 6 weeks to finish. They are allowing us a 2-week heads up.
All right, so CP would be, I'm assuming that means center point. That's who I would assume because of the time frame you gave me. That's how I'm filling in that blank. Which, by the way, that's a very aggressive time frame for center point. So Center Point Energy is the power provider for a large portion of the greater Houston area.
Okay.
They are the primary provider. In other words, they own the lines. You may end up with TXU as your biller, or NRG, or Greenmount Energy, or Joe Schmo Power, but CenterPoint owns the lines. They own the poles and they own the lines. It's I don't know how far out we are, George. If we're more than 6 weeks out, we may not need a generator. We have done cases, I know John can attest to this, where we just do a change order with the customer that says, hey, we're going to charge X amount of dollars for generator power up to a certain time, like it's a monthly rental or typically monthly, because that's the cheapest way to rent. If you rent them by the day or by the week, you're paying through the nose. So a monthly rental is
you bought a generator.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, the generator.
Yeah.
And so that is something that we can tackle. It's pretty rare that we have to do that, but it's not outside the realm of possibility, and we've certainly done it before and are doing it now. So the good news is they got great, all the wood I can knock on. They've had wonderful weather. CenterPoint doesn't get derailed until there's like a hurricane or something, or an ice storm. I feel like you're safe from an ice storm right now. Not going to be an issue. Hurricane, I'm not even going to say it out loud. Things happen. But all that to say, barring any catastrophic weather event, they have great weather right now to work. There's no reason they couldn't get the physical work done. And then, but if we need a generator, we can get pricing for that, do a change order, and go from there. But great question.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is the last question I see.
Yeah, I mean, he said my experience with CenterPoint. Like I've had great experience with CenterPoint. I mean, personally, on homes that I've built, I've had customers with horrible experience with CenterPoint. They're a massive entity, and so it really kind of is the luck of the draw on your what do they call them, John? They're like your representative, or
your rep or your technician.
Yeah.
Sometimes line engineer.
It kind of really does come down to that guy or gal, and kind of how thorough they are, and then it's a big. It's technically not a bureaucracy; it's a monopoly. So I mean, you're at their mercy. I mean, it's a legalized monopoly. They own all the lines, and there are no options. So you're kind of at their mercy.
Yeah.
By kind of, I mean 100%. All right. So obviously, thank you all for joining us. This has been awesome. John, thank you for taking time out of your day, man. I really do appreciate it. Are you there in Waco? Speaking of the shout out Waco team.
I am, but my computer actually
I recognize like a waiting area out there.
10 minutes before. So I ran in here and kicked somebody else off of there.
So shout out to that sales consultant.
He was like, John, my computer's not working. I'm like, is there anyone you can borrow?
We had done all kinds of work up then. I didn't even know that. And here I am telling her I won't be here till like 1:55. So she's like, great. This is awesome. Anyway,
great. We got this.
Thank you all for joining us. Obviously, the questions don't have to stop here. We are hard to hide. We don't hide very well at all. So we got a website open 24/7. We got 12 design centers open 7 days a week with model homes for you to tour. We got new home specialists on standby to help answer those high level questions or schedule an appointment. We got on-site sales staff that are amazing and can draw those plans, make those changes, do the cabinet selections, all that kind of stuff with you and your family, get what you want in there. John and his team are prepped there to meet you out at your property. That's the reason they exist, and find that information out. Then we got a Facebook page. I hear we have a Facebook page that's got some info. We got an Instagram page. We have a very dormant TikTok, right? Hopefully
we do. We'll bring it back.
It's okay. No rush. There's we got a YouTube channel with thousands of hours of
just a small little YouTube channel.
Yeah, consumable content. I know a lot of you have been there, but a lot of things like this going back to 2018 or maybe beyond that. Anyway, a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
Of stuff on there. And yeah, we want to hear from you. Ask us questions. There's no bad questions. We want to be sure that you and your family get all the information you need to make the best decision possible for y'all. And we'll be back next week. Thanks for watching. And we genuinely soon hope to make you part of the Tilson family. We'll see all y'all later.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.